Globalization and Labor Conflict. Dr. Marquita Walker, Department of Labor Studies, IUPUI. Globalization and strikes. Labor conflict refers to disruption at the point of production caused by working people or their allies who challenge the dominant power structure in the labor management relationship. Labor conflict is evident in strike activity, the ability of workers to withhold their labor when their economic conditions worsen as a result of management decisions. Though strikes are the most visible form of production disruption, other forms of work disruption exist, such as work to rule, which is doing exactly what one is told to do, even when it might not be the best thing to do, work slowdowns, in which workers simply work more slowly or leave the work area for short breaks, or supply and equipment sabotage, in which supplies or equipment are missing or broken. The idea that globalization has eradicated strike activity is erroneous, even though the current globalized climate has shifted more power to management and away from workers. The data on strike activity is probably understated, considering data, particularly in the case of the U.S., is only collected if the strike population totals 1,000 or more. The unreliability of the data should not infer that strikes, as a tool to resolve labor conflict, is in disuse. It is more likely that the compositional change from production industries to service industries as a result of globalization has had an effect on strike activity. Service sectors tend to be less unionized, and trade unions generally are the conduit through which strike activities is most successful. The public sector, though, is registering its discontent through the use of strike activity, and the global South witnesses strike activity as it ramps up production facilities. More likely is that globalization's effect on weakening workers' bargaining power through legislative and court decisions which favor property rights over workers' rights is in vogue. The instigation of high-performance work systems foster a more cooperative work climate, the aggressive government push to weaken labor laws which protect workers, and governments' insistence on making their countries attractive to foreign direct investment has contributed to fewer strike incidents. Globalizing labor conflict. The visible decline of strike activity worldwide does not suggest a more satisfied workforce nor a more generally satisfactory labor management relationship, but rather a move by workers to channel their discontent through conduits other than trade union strikes. The neoliberal policies in which governments engage have created economic conditions of austerity under which workers labor and suffer. The magnitude of worker distress under these austerity measures forces workers to mobilize based on their incentive and ability to effect change. For instance, workers affiliated with various unions and other organizations can form coalitions which engage in street protests, blockades, and street demonstrations to voice their discontent. A connection between globalization and labor conflict is that of foreign direct investment. Global supply chains of multinational companies are susceptible to labor unrest because the point of production is spatially far removed from the owners of production. Secondly, foreign direct investment encourages social dislocation because it imposes country of origin social norms and practices into different countries' workplaces. And thirdly, foreign direct investment is protective of the brand, and field labor disputes might tarnish their reputation. Globalization and the transformation of labor conflict. The forms of dealing with labor conflict have changed. Workers now mobilize transnationally, especially in highly internationalized sectors such as shipping. Cross-border campaigns involving international union federations, human rights organizations, and non-governmental organizations support striking workers in repressive countries by exposing workers' horrible working conditions and pay to the world. Repertories of contention involve direct action by working and non-working people fed up with austerity measures which seem to only profit the already rich. They often engage in boss napping, the short kidnapping of the supervisor as a protest, public demonstrations, political lobbying, corporate campaigns, and warning strikes and stoppages. The rise of worker centers, which inform and educate workers, documented and undocumented, supports those who might otherwise not know their rights. Partnering with other social movements, such as those promoting civil rights and women's rights, is also effective. The major takeaway from dealing with labor conflict in a globalized world is the utilization of tactics other than traditional strikes in spaces other than traditional workplaces. The tendency is for workers and others to mobilize whenever and wherever the need arises outside of the workplace.